Hello there, and welcome to the Political Oracle, a segment of the Talk Church podcast. My name is Pendo Setim. Today I'm joined by Dr. Michael Ndonye. Karibu sana daktari.
Asante.
And before we go to matters at hand, let me offer you our today's political benediction. The former US President Abraham Lincoln said that commitment is a line you must cross. Once you do it, you must keep your promises. Today we are going to discuss about the issue of the President William Ruto and his apology. And Daktari, during the Madaraka Day celebrations, that was on 1st June, the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga asked the President to match his words with actions by compensating the Gen Zs.
I want today to say that we should do compensation to families of those who died and those who were injured, so that we can have a closure to this chapter.
Citing that an apology is not just enough.
Yeah.
And we remember during the National Prayer Breakfast, the 22nd National Prayer Breakfast.
To our children, if there is any misstep, we apologize.
President William Ruto offered an apology to the Gen Zs who were victims of the 2024 finance bill protests.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I think it's something that we need to look into very keenly, because it touches lives that were lost during the 2024 Gen Z protests, and it also touches on the president coming out to say sorry. And I remember he said, actually, I don't think he offered absolute apology. He said ikiwa kuna watu tuliwakosea or something like that. And then Raila Odinga coming out during Madaraka Day and telling the president, you need to do more than just apologizing. Of course, he was trying to tell him to do more than just talk.
Okay.
But I'm going to see it from another perspective. The perspective is this. Let's start with the national breakfast, the 22nd one, where the president said, we are sorry if to liwakosea, and especially to the young people. I think, number one, we cannot call that an apology until he is able to substantiate why was he saying he is sorry. And also, we cannot say he apologized too, because he said if. Immediately use the word if, it means he is just dispensing it for the sake of dispensing it. He is not committing himself to an act of killing or acts of killings that happened during the 2024 Gen Z protests. So he did not commit the government, because if he did, then he would be trying to say we are guilty as government, and this is what we are apologizing for, which I think it was a failure on his side, because as a government, whether they were involved or not, it is the role of this government to offer security to its citizens. And also, protests and picketing, demonstrating and picketing is a right which is encapsulated in our constitution. So the citizens had the right to be protected while they were demonstrating. But what we saw in 2024 was a kind of an exchange between the Gen Zs and the police, and also some people who were not known whether they were police or they were not police. Okay. Gen Zs, some youth were killed. We cannot discount that. They were killed. They lost lives. There are families who lost their loved ones. And what we know is that the government changed its stance on the finance bill. So I don't think the president was apologizing, and I don't think if he was apologizing, he could have been absolute and say we are sorry. He should have even looked it from another perspective, that we may not be responsible for killings, but we are responsible for offering security. We apologize because we failed to offer security, which is our duty. whether the killing was being done by criminals or by other people, or even by the state. Now, the second drama is now when Raila Odinga comes before the president speaks, and he is now wants to kind of order the president in public that you are supposed to do more than just apologizing, which I think to me is politics, because Raila Odinga is part of government. Okay. Raila Odinga can access William Ruto anytime, anywhere. They came together. They are friends. Why is he not confronting him in person and telling him, can you plan to compensate, the families who lost their lives, the people who lost their lives, compensate to their families? Why is he playing it in public? And that is where we need to interpret this and see they are just playing politics. Why? Ruto is guilty because he was in charge of government and he is supposed to protect the citizens. 2, Raila is feeling guilty because it is actually critics will tell you that Raila came to have an handshake with President Ruto when the protests were on. So we are going to see a situation whereby Raila Odinga took advantage of the protests. And maybe President Ruto decided, let me take Raila on my side, because if the Gen Z protests are now backed up by Raila Odinga, it will be worse. And by doing that, of course, Gen Zs, especially from those areas where Raila Odinga is a kingpin, they felt, okay, we have been included in the government. So they pulled back. And Raila is seen as having betrayed Gen Zs. So he is still being haunted by that guilt. And that is why he is trying to play a public gallery and trying to offer those statements so that he is seen as if he is fighting for the changes for the public and for the Gen Zs, which I don't think he is doing. Otherwise, if he was serious, he would just meet Ruto in private and tell him, you do this and this. And then when they have implemented, that is when they should come in public and say, okay, we have agreed to do this and that. That would be more prudent. But this other one, I think is pure politics, and it is neither here nor there, because Ruto did not respond. It means it's something they had planned. Okay. If Ruto responded, if it caught Ruto off guard, he would have responded in a speech to Raila Odinga. He did not respond. He just let it go. That means it was just a statement that was planned to be made by Raila Odinga, of course, kujisafisha, to clean up himself, to try to feel good, because he still feels guilty because of what he did. So I think it is, to me, my interpretation is that those statements, the apology and also the statement by Raila Odinga about Gen Zs, they are pure politics. They are neither here nor there. And we are going to see nothing. And if they wanted to take action, they will take action. But they don't want, they are not committal. Yeah.
And so if they want to take action, what are some of the strategies that they should implement to gain the trust of the younger generation? Because clearly we are seeing there's a disconnect between the state and the young people.
Of course, what is haunting them is what they should do. You know, something is telling them in their mind that there are two things that need to be done, but they don't want to do them. Okay. They just want to vocalize them. Number one, the government should apologize. The government should own the responsibility. It should be accountable. It should be responsible to tell Kenyans, we are sorry. In either of the situations, and as I have said it, if the government is the one that was involved in the killings, they should apologize. If the government is not the one who was involved in the killings, that is now the state, the government should apologize. In both situations, the government should apologize, because it is the work and mandate of the government to protect the lives of citizens. And also, if this was happening during protests, during demonstrations, protests, and picketing are a right encapsulated in our constitution, and the government should be able to provide security. Full stop. That is number one. So they are being hardened by this voice. You are supposed to own, you are supposed to be responsible, you are supposed to be accountable, you are supposed to apologize, but they don't want to do it directly. Two, it is their responsibility to compensate the families who lost their loved ones. And that is why they are still saying it, because it is still haunting them. They are supposed to find some healing. It is a kind of a reconciliation, a healing process. It has nothing to do with whether you are right or you are wrong. It's a healing process. It's a price the government should pay so that in future, when they are either neglecting security or the state is committing crimes against humanity, they should know, okay, there is a price to pay here. As long as they are not doing that, we cannot say they are doing anything. And those are the only things, actually, they have told us what they are supposed to do. Because the two actions will make them a kind of a repent. And to repent is to take a 180 degrees from where you are facing to the other side, to show that we are now not going to this side, we are going on this side, and whatever you have seen, you are not going to see it again. So I think just those two actions, whatever they are saying is a voice that they are hearing, but they don't want to commit.
Okay.
Yes.
Whatever you've said right now takes me back to your latest column on the Standard newspaper, where you were citing a book on how to rig an election by Nick Chisman and Brian Klass. And in that column, you were advising the president. You gave him some strategies that are aside from the ones offered by the two. And some of the strategies included what you just said, that the president should prioritize actions over public declarations. Maybe, Doctor, you can elaborate to us the strategies that you've mentioned in detail.
Okay, thank you. And of course, in every Friday, I usually have a column that I concentrate on the presidential, let me call it presidential politics. My interest is to shed light on what is happening in the country, and especially at the presidential level. I do that without demeaning the president, without insulting anyone, but with love, because he is our president. He is the person who is leading this country, and we are concerned. In fact, Machiavelli said, those who want to get a good picture of the high places, they lie on the plains.
Okay. So that they can see
what is happening in the mountains.
Okay.
That means if someone is down here as a citizen, they can explain better what is happening in the government than someone who is in the government. And if someone wants to get a good perspective of what is happening in the plain, they place themselves in the mountains.
Okay.
So anyone who is in power should be able to know what is happening down here. So when down here we are crying and the government is pretending they are not seeing, that's pretense. They are just ignoring us. It's not that they cannot see, because they are up there. And us, when we look at them and tell them, this is how you look like, we are actually at a vantage point to explain to them, this is what is going wrong. This is what you are doing wrong. And that is why we offer counsel to them. That's why the media has decided to give a voice to some people down here so that we can explain what is happening in the government, because we can see what they are doing better, because we are not there. Now, How to Rig an Election is a book by Nick Chisman and Brian Klass, and they were trying to expose some of the strategies that some governments and regimes, not only in Africa, but also in developing and both what we call the global north, global south countries, how they manage to cheat themselves or to cheat to the power or into power. And of course, they gave strategies that we already, sometimes some of them we already know. For example, like vote buying, what we call vote buying, like using, for example, international bodies to sanitize them. But I was looking at, I used that because I have read that book. I was looking at it from a different perspective. That rigging is not always bad. You can rig an election in a good way. Rigging in the sense that you can convince citizens through delivery of services that you are deserved to be elected again. And in this, I realized, why can't I pick that which President Ruto has already promised and has put in place? If we can take advantage of 7 things which are happening now within his government, he can secure an opportunity to be re-elected again in 2027. He does not need to bank on rigging. He does not need to bank on vote buying. He will not have to bank on clandestine methods of being elected. He can bank on service delivery so that people elect him back to presidency in good faith and in confidence, and so that he will be there legitimately. And some of these things I listed are some of the projects that he has. Like, for example, the Social Health Insurance Fund, the one they are calling SHA. And this is one of the flagship projects that William Ruto, if he stops thinking about 2027 and how he is going to rig an election in a clandestine way, in a way that is not ethical, if we concentrate on this, citizens will be pleased, because health sector is a scam in this country. Health sector is collapsing in this country. Health is a big issue to across populations, across generations, and it is not only in Kenya but also in the developed countries. Even if you go to the United States, you will realize the issue of health is a big issue. It's one of the campaign agendas that are used by every president. So William Ruto and his government have a chance to deliver health security. Yes, a chance to deliver on the matters of health of this nation in a big way. But he must believe in himself. He must stop concentrating on 2027 and how he is going to rig an election in a way that is not proper. So for me, I was trying to tell him, instead of thinking of how you can rig an election in this other way, you can rig an election in a better way. The second one is actually affordable housing program, which most of us, we see it as a socialist project. We are a capitalist country. But how he is going to handle this is what is going to make the difference. Remember, the other day, he just launched some houses, some projects. So we are seeing results. But how is he going to handle this project so that he convinces Kenyans that this is a good project? We are offering solutions for housing problems which are there, especially in urban areas. And the way he is going to handle that project is going to determine whether the next president will fight him using that project or not. Because as long as he is not going to make it successful and he is not going to convince Kenyans that this is a worthy project, the next president will come and say, one of my agenda is to do away with
that project,
the housing levy. And the housing project. What will we have done? Is this project sustainable across regimes? Is this project benefiting Kenyans? Of course, it is offering employment. he should highlight those issues that matter, especially in this project, and make sure it works and Kenyans feel that it is working for them. Not some Kenyans, but all Kenyans. The other issue I highlighted, of course, is the issue of good governance. And tied to the first one and the second one, he should plan, he should put systems in place so that he earns a re-election through good governance, not through rigging,
malpractice,
not through voter manipulation, not through some of the things that we see in every election. The fourth one, of course, is about ethnicity. And I listed ethnic unity, especially in the Rift Valley. Rift Valley is the only region in this country where two communities who are very key to elections live, and that is the Kalenjin and the Kikuyu. 2 weeks ago, I responded to what Gachagua said, that 2027 will make 2007, 2008 look like Christmas. And the issue was, he is actually not supposed to think, even to imagine of that kind of a statement, especially if he were considering the Rift Valley region where Kalenjins and Kikuyus live together. What actually the relationship between Kalenjin and Kikuyu in the Rift Valley is transactional. It is not like the relationship between Kikuyu and, for example, Luos and Kambas. Kalenjins do not intermarry, and we know that. Kalenjins rarely intermarry with Kikuyus. Kikuyus intermarry with Luos. Luos intermarry with Kambas. Kalenjins, intermarriage between Kalenjins and Kikuyus, the percentage and the rate is very low. Even when they live together like no other two communities in this country. So what joins them is, number one, politics. Number two, the resources that they share. Politics touches on resources. So if these people start fighting, they fight. And they fight badly. And no one should play around with them. Ruto comes from Rift Valley. If he is going to give us a solution on how these two communities are going to live together through 2027, he will have won the hearts of many. Because also Rift Valley is a big voting bloc. And when these two communities are together in politics, there is peace in this country. How he is going to make sure they are together is what is going to determine whether he will be re-elected legitimately or illegitimately. We are not saying President Ruto will not be re-elected. He can be re-elected. But is that re-election going to be legitimate or illegitimate? Because that is the qualification we should do. Yes, he could be re-elected, but how is he going to be re-elected? Is it going to be quality election? Is it going to be a quality win, a quality victory? And then the other thing I talked about was the issue of tax reforms. Tax is something that William Ruto said when he was fighting the former regime.
2022, hawa watu wa mama mboga na ule wa bodaboda na hawa wa mkokoteni na wheelbarrow na huyo wa kioski na makanga, tutaunda serikali ya mahasla 2022. Wajipange.
He said, I'm going to form a government of Mama Boga. I'm going to form a government which is bottom up, a kind of a model of economy. But when he got into power, what we saw was a different thing. Actually, the first thing we saw was a 2024 finance bill, on account of which Kenyans were killed, trying to protest against it. And when people and Kenyans told him, this is not the best timing to bring a bill, and they told him, we are not going to agree with this bill. What did he say? Hii kitu tunapitisha mutake mustake. He said that through proxies and also directly, which was a kind of an arrogance to the people who had put him in power, expecting him to reduce their pain. And it is something that he needs to work on. Otherwise, someone will campaign against him in 2027, and they will say, we are coming in to reduce taxes that William Ruto has imposed in this country, and the Kenyans will follow him. But if himself, he decides to alleviate Kenyans from the burden, he is going to have a good chance
of the election.
We are not saying that Kenyans should not pay taxes. Paying tax is our responsibility as citizens.
Okay.
But we need to know Kenyans, as long as they have no problem in paying taxes, they have a problem in the way their money is being used. That's the problem. If we are not seeing good management of our money, we will complain.
Okay.
Kenyans will have problems with the government that is receiving money, more taxes, but nothing is happening in terms of alleviating or enabling businesses, enabling entrepreneurship, funding development, or investing in such a way that in future we are going to see the fruits of our investment. But what we are seeing in government and what Kenyans are seeing is something totally different, totally disconnected. We have no hope, and no one can tell you Kenya has a future in the current status quo. And of course, the issue of tax policy, I think, is our government has been off and is something they need to work on. Of course, the other one is political rhetoric, something that you have said. They should stop talking. They should do the work.
Yeah.
In fact, President Kibaki was not a talking president. He was a doing president. If Ruto wants to be remembered, he needs now to stop talking, stop his people from talking, let them work. Because work speaks louder
Than
words. And Kenyans are not fools. Kenyans are learned people. Yeah. Wajiko now knows the constitution. Wajiko knows their rights. Wajiko knows what is development and what is not development. Wajiko knows what is true and what is not true. So you cannot say Kenyans, we are going to kuwapiga hapa na pale, we tufanye mipango hapa na pale, tutoshanishe, tuwanyamazishe hivi na hivi. They are seeing.
They are woke.
Most of them are not even talking. They keep quiet. Some of us who talk, we talk on their behalf. But that is what the ground is feeling, that the president is having more talk than action. Okay. And of course, the other one is actually something that touches on elections, the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The Electoral Commission is one of the bodies that has had a lot of problems since the time of the one Kivuito, who declared Kibaki president in 2008, January or around there. And this country was almost burning. From that time up to the time we had the 2010 constitution, up to the time we started now a new dispensation under the 2010 constitution, the IEBC has been a big issue. And if people have no confidence in the IEBC, we cannot say we are going to have free and fair elections. Remember, free and fair election is not about the state of voting. It is about the state of the minds of Kenyans. It is about the perception. Even if the election is free and fair, as long as Kenyans are feeling that there are people there we are not confident with, we will never have confidence with the process. So, you remember last month, towards the end of last month, someone went to court, tried to stop the vetting of the people who were appointed as commissioners for IBC. Of course, some few days ago, they were vetted and they were passed. Of course, whatever happened, it happened, and I think through the court order, The court order allowed the parliament to continue with the vetting. But it is said the president cannot gazette those names until the case which is pending in court is heard. Okay, why is it that Kenyans have a problem with some commissioners? If this government and if President Ruto want to be fair and to rig the election fairly, he should not allow any leakage into that body. He should not give people a reason to complain if he is declared president, because he could be elected legitimately. But people will start now looking at the commissioners and saying, okay, he has won because he is related to that person. This person is related to this. This one was not recruited fairly. This one whose name was sneaked. You know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You should make sure that that body is clean and without question.
And neutral too.
And if he does that, people will have confidence with the body. People will have, because if Kenyans have no confidence with the IEBC, he will not have a legitimate right. Even if he wins legitimately, in the minds of many Kenyans, he will not have won legitimately. Legitimacy in elections is a state of mind. Legitimacy in an election is a perception. Politics and the victories of politics is about perception. If people perceive that you are fair, they will perceive that you are fair. We have this president from Burkina Faso, Traore, who took over through a military coup. If you ask Africa, they will tell you this is a president. We want other presidents to be like that. But he took over through a coup. Taking over governance or government through a coup is illegal all over the world. But he is performing. So his performance overshadows is the way he came into power. And that is why Africa is proud of him. So it is not about whether you win legitimately or illegitimately. It depends with the perception. Because you can also rig an election and citizens can be very happy. Actually, you can steal an election and the people will support you for stealing the election because of the perception. You can win an election legitimately and the people will be against you. Yes, and that is why politics is a perception. If they perceive you as a good person, then that is something good. However, that perception cannot be created through PR. It cannot be created through public display of some things that do not exist. It can only be achieved by performance. If you perform, if you speak the language of the people, if you speak to the needs of the people, that is how it works. Kibaki, the third president of this country, there is no other president in this country who made Kenyans to kill one another than Kibaki. But still, if you ask Kenyans will tell you, okay, forget about the fact that he stole his last term. He is the one president who did a lot for this country. Why?
The perception.
It's the perception. And that is why we need to President Ruto need to understand what is the difference between performance, between politics, between winning an election, and also the way people are going to perceive. The legitimacy of the people in politics is about perception. It is not about winning an election. It is about perception. And I think if he is going to pay keen attention to some of these things, he will have a chance. Even if he steals the election, Kenyans will support him if he is performing. Let him also remember, even if he wins legitimately and he has not performed, Kenyans will be against him. He will still be legitimate. Yes.
Now, Daktari, if President Ruto follows the strategies that you've just mentioned, what are some of the long-term effects that are going to go beyond the 2027 elections, that if he wins?
Okay, if he wins the re-election, okay, Of course, winning a re-election, as I have said, means he will have a chance to create a legacy.
Yeah.
If Ruto is not re-elected, it will be punitive.
Okay.
There is no other president whom Kenyans have had confidence in like William Ruto. They never even had that confidence with Kibaki. Kibaki was elected because of a big coalition and people were trying to solve a problem. Ruto has been elected by the will of the people.
Okay.
But he is letting them down. If he is removed after his first term, it will be a big failure on his side. And he will leave no legacy. And people will live to say, we had an expectation, a lot of expectations on this son, William Samuel Ruto, but he let us down.
Okay.
And that is why he should just reorganize himself. He will have a chance to leave a legacy. He will also have a chance to deliver on and show Kenyans that what you told us, that the dynasties have been leading us badly, and that we, from outsiders, we can lead good, well, he will prove them wrong, okay? And we will prove him right. But as long as that is not happening, we will still start questioning. I think there is a problem with a poor man's son coming into leadership. With a person from outside what they call the system coming to rule the country. He will have spoiled not only for himself, but also for other Kenyans who are seeking to lead this country from a poor background. So he should see himself as such.
Okay.
And that is going to be an impact. Of course, the other impact is we expect, if he is going to be re-elected again, we expect him to treat this country with humility and humanity. He should now be in a position to get leadership outside the two communities. In fact, if he is going to have a legacy, the legacy for William Ruto will be if he will get presidency out of Kalenjin, out of Kikuyu.
Okay.
That one may look as if it is very sensitive, but these two communities have been insulted for using their numbers to install leaders in this country. And other communities feel that they have been set aside as people who are supposed just to be used as voting machines, they are supposed just to be celebrating. If President Ruto can have another term, I think he should work on getting leadership out of these two communities, so that even others see leadership is not easy. Yeah, it is not easy to be a president. So instead of, because they keep thinking that this thing is very easy, it is not easy, and at the same time, it is not hard. It is not impossible. Anyone who is a Kenyan has the mandate, and they can lead this nation. And you don't need to come from Kalenjin or from Kikuyu to be a president. And that is a point he is supposed to prove. Whether it works or not, of course, it depends with him. That is my opinion. And I think he has a lot to benefit if he is re-elected. But he needs to do a lot of adjustment in his way of administration. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dr. for your insights. We have come to the end of the political oracle. I hope President Ruto will get some advice from this podcast. Until we meet next time, bye-bye.
Bye.